Hello everybody! Welcome to another episode of Roaring Reddit. And today we're going to be checking out this advice for those of you who are interested in doing better interviews. Let's get to it. First off, we have a comment by Chio Bar. I once read one of someone who claimed to have a Sicology degree from the university I had attended. Since it was several states away, this stuck out. Since he didn't know how to spell psychology, I obviously knew he was lying, but it was open panel interviews, so I spoke with him face to face anyway. The look of shock and terror in his eyes when I said I was thrilled to see that we were alums from the same place and started discussing details of campus, oh, it was fun to witness. This is from the perspective of what's some of the worst things people have done in interviews that you remember? Big no-nos. 5 years worth of graphic design experience, but this person had no profile because of a crashed hard drive. This was before cloud backups were that much of a thing. Rest of the story? I rolled the dice and gave them a chance because all the other applicants were terrible, and they were one of my best hires. Got lucky. Nick Cram adds, this dude put this on his resume. CCNA -1 under his certifications. The CCNA is a Cisco network certification. During the interview, I asked what the -1 meant. He said, oh, I missed the certification by only one question. I asked how we could verify that, and he just shrugged. We used to require CCNA for our staff, and we since have been a bit more reasonable if they don't have it. Reason being, we had a guy who was CCNP, and all he did was skive and make matters worse by trying to fix them. Then we had people who took a chance on, who had no Cisco qualifications, and they were one of the best members of staff we had. Having said that, though, it was like a second line role. He would absolutely need evidence of having it. Well, my boss thinks that looking at someone's LinkedIn is doing a social media background check. So I don't know anymore, but looking for someone's Instagram, Facebook, etc. feels like a huge breach of privacy to me. However, I know some employers do it, so change your online names, folks. Sidebar, I have the same name as a famous drug Canadian mobster type who got killed. It's amazing. I had a boss once, and he was always like, alright, yeah, people give references, fuck their references. Call their references and ask for more references. Ask their reference for someone to call. And you're not supposed to do that, that's illegal. But I guess he was doing it anyway. So he would just get a reference from the reference and then ask them. So basically that would have the effect of asking a random person who knew. And so he believed that you would get more realistic references that way. Professor Lake adds, not in HR myself, but when I ran a small office years ago, I did receive a resume from a young woman who bragged that she was a member of Mensa and had been a research associate at a prestigious university, etc. She also mentioned 3 times that she was not a Republican. I thought, well, cool, but I don't think that really has anything to do with the job. It took me about a day to figure out that she was actually trying to say notary public, which really threw the whole Mensa thing into doubt. I was following up with references one time on 3 different employees. We are seasonal, so we do a big hire all at once. Employee number 1. The first person I called was extremely confrontational and asked why I was calling her of all people. I explained that she was listed as a reference and dead silence. Then, I went to high school with her 30 years ago, barely knew her then and haven't talked to her since. Employee number 2. Reference said to me, she listed me as her boss? I met her once, in passing. We worked in the same building, but different departments with completely different management. I've never worked with this person, nor could I tell you her job title. Employee number 3. Ugh, what did my daughter do this time? When I asked if I was speaking with insert name. So she listed her mom as a reference. I asked if her daughter had ever worked for her, as it was listed she was her last boss. And she's laughed and said no. All 3 of those were automatic nopes. Yikes. I had a former coworker put me down as a reference without asking me. I liked her as a person, but she was pretty awful worker. Lazy, not dependable, careless. She ended up being fired from my company after being given many chances to succeed. So I get a call out of the blue about her from a company that had interviewed her. I didn't want to say anything bad for obvious reasons, but I also wasn't going to vouch for her. So I kept it really, really vague. Like, oh, yeah, Sandy's got a super great sense of humor. She likes to laugh, keeps her desk neat, all kind of non-committal stuff. I'm guessing the HR person was astute enough to see it for what it was. Thankfully, I never got another call regarding her and have since changed my phone number. Nothing adds. I got a resume once where a guy had obviously just copied and pasted job descriptions as his work history. It was blatantly obvious because everything was in third person. The guy didn't even take the time to edit it. Candidate will be able to type of wording. I gave him an interview and asked him tough questions based off of his supposed work experience. I was morbidly curious if he was just bad at writing resumes or just a lazy liar. It turns out, the latter. When I interview someone, I usually try and ease up on questions when it's obvious the candidate doesn't have the required experience. I don't want to leave someone, totally demoralized. I didn't let up on this guy, though, and when he couldn't answer a question, I would comment that he had listed it in his resume. Hopefully, he learned a lesson. There was a period where people would attach a photo of themselves on or with their resume. I had a young girl, about 18 or 19, attach a photo to her resume. The issue was that the photo was of her in a bikini on her knees at the water's edge with her hands behind her head sticking her chest out. She was smoking hot, but did not quite make the short list. She may have gotten the job if we had an eye for tail and not detail. She should have checked what she was sending. At my last job, someone applied for a sysadmin job, and instead of attaching his CV, it was just a photo of his hand holding a glass of some spirit and Coca-Cola that was most likely taken in some bar or club. My manager forwarded the application to me to review with a note, "I think you two will get along." Well, when I worked in recruiting, we had a woman upload and crop a photo in our online application form, which still arrived uncropped at our place. It was her fully nude with a bottle of wine in her hand. I remember talking to 2 HR employees in a very large, well-known finance company in Korea, and they literally said they would just look at the photos and pick the applicants that they thought were attractive. They were in no way ashamed of that, and it was a man and a woman. Hey, at least it's not sexist. That's good, I guess, huh? Lady fapping adds, the recruiting team at my company tossed away a CV from a guy because he had Domino's pizza delivery driver as his current role. When I'm hiring for my team, I make a point to look at bin CVs just to check I'm not missing a diamond in the rough. When I looked at this guy's credentials, it turned out that he was driving for Domino's while completing his master's degree and had technical qualifications up to his eyeballs. I hired him after bringing him in for interviews, and he's now my right-hand man. Another guy I interviewed had a perfect CV, but refused to shake my hand or make eye contact throughout the interview, and that was a big nope. Another started ranting about his current company and how shit they are. Another nope. Hiring people is totally exhausting. I worked for a company where the HR guy refused to hire anybody who wasn't currently working, and specifically in our field. This was home building in 2008, so a dire time for employees in the industry. And it always struck me as awful that he had those standards. There always are plenty of good people working different jobs while completing education and transitioning back to the workforce for whatever reason, laid off or had good companies choose to leave them unemployed through no fault of their own. His reasoning was that if they were good employees, they wouldn't have been laid off or their company wouldn't have folded. In home building, in 2008, such bullshit. Sewer sleuth adds, too many jobs in too short period of time is always a red flag. But lately, with all that's gone on, I've had 3 different jobs in a year when my original career was decimated by the pandemic. So I have a changed perspective now. Red flag doesn't mean they are out or have no chance. It just means should dig deeper. Could be circumstantial or it could be you. Depends on your qualifications and skills, not experience, that dictates my actions. Kura adds, yeah, that's true. It gets military spouses in trouble a lot since it's either too many jobs in too short period of time or very long gaps in employment. I started not listing some jobs, or I even had to remove my degree from my resume to not look overqualified. Too many jobs in too short period of time was always a red flag. The last retail job I worked at was a shoe store, and my head manager said the same thing. She once gave someone the benefit of the doubt a long time ago, and they just fucked her over by not showing up after a month of being hired. Cool Guy McFly adds, it's really screwing me now. I had moved on from a company I'd been with for a while to go work at a startup company that had some really great proprietary technology. I was being groomed for a senior leadership role, and then COVID hits and boom, laid off. I was only there for 8 months, but I'd still be there today if it wasn't for COVID. I was thankful enough to find another job during the pandemic, but since I was out of work, I took what I could get and settled for a job with a substantial pay cut. Now that things are easing up on COVID restrictions and jobs are coming back, I'm looking to get my career back on track to where it was. But I can see how a resume with 2 jobs in under 2 years would be a pretty big red flag. I know if I'm a hiring manager, I would be asking questions. It feels bad, man. You forgot the serious tag original poster. Would have improved the answers here. Oh no! It looks like... Oh! Alright everybody, that's it for now. If you like this kind of content, please reach out. Let us know, check out another one of our videos, like this video, or comment below. As always, thanks for watching, and see you next time. Ciao!